Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be doing a little demo on lazy loading in React, and this kind of goes hand in hand with single page applications. The too long didn't watch bit of this is that we are going to load in resources only as we need them. So basically, as you kind of like scroll down and things magically pop into frame, they're actually being loaded in dynamically. They're not necessarily sitting there in memory waiting for you. This is typically something that is useful if you have big single page applications where you can, just kind of keep doom scrolling through the whole thing. And then, so Twitter here, just all this stuff is popping in, right? So big single page application, but a lot of it is not necessarily in memory until we get to kind of this point in time. Now, for a lot of kind of I suppose slower networks or dynamic applications where you don't want to load any large chunk of memory at once, this is absolutely perfect. This is not something that you necessarily need to do for every single application, but again, it is useful if you want to conserve resources, make the loading process a little bit easier. Now, the other thing too is that the next video in this playlist is lazy loading with suspense. And the fun part about React 18 is that suspense is now baked into the framework, so it's no longer experimental. It is a part of the build or a part of the tool chain. So a little bit of overlap with the next video too. I'm going to be using this demo here, which is fairly recent as far as demos go. The one in the next video is still relevant. It still works. I tried it out, but it's a slightly different view of suspense, I suppose. In the other preview, what is suspense? That's basically showing a little loading icon while your content is loading in. So what we're going to do here, let me go ahead and pop open a brand new React application. So been a hot minute since I've recorded here. Let's make this a touch bigger. Create React app lazy 2, since I have a lazy demo already. All right, so we'll let this go ahead and percolate. Now, all we need here for this particular lazy loading application, we need React, obviously, and we also need fontawesome, which is a very handy CSS boilerplate. You've probably seen it in various applications, but they're like standard fonts, standard icons, pretty commonly used in a lot of mobile and web applications. I'm going to go ahead and import that as well, just to show you something different going on. One thing that you might notice with fontawesome is that, and I've got I'll put all of these links in as well, but they don't apparently render the CSS very nicely, so you need to do a little bit of fiddling to make sure that your icons are not massive in terms of what's coming through. And what we'll see here in this demo is that it's actually passing style tags through the components. So that's just kind of where we're at. All right, so you're still installing. That's going to be fine. Now, just to kind of talk through the demo a little bit while that's going, what you may have seen before, and this, again, this blog kind of walks you through it. Before we created a loading state, we grabbed the API, we did some checks to see if things were loaded in, where we are at on the page, then dynamically make it appear. So that's kind of the old style. New style that we're going to be doing is using this react.suspense tag for lazily loading in modules. We are also going to do this slightly, kind of promise-driven, asynchronous-driven call for grabbing other aspects of our application, and we're going to import them that way. So all this is really doing is basically returning a promise, an asynchronous load here that this content will be, will appear. And then the suspense bit is going to show, maybe a spinner icon or a loading ... or whatever you instruct it to put in there so that the user knows content will be appearing. Okay. So nice thing here is that we don't have to create a state entity. I want to say that some of the other videos make use of the state because we're talking about hoisting and all that fun stuff. But we don't need to worry about that for lazy loading anymore, which is kind of nice. And the goal is to get something that looks like this. So here we have some divs popping in. You see that little spinner icon. That's kind of what we're working with here. And honestly, the code is really not that bad. All right, so we have our application running. Let's go ahead and before we get too far into this, let's go ahead and install the font awesome pack. So npm I react-font awesome. And then that will grab those components for us. Very, very quick, which is nice. And let's open up our app.js. Now, what I'm going to do here, let's do npm start, just so we have that running. Okay. All right, so we have our basic React app running. Seen this many, many times. And I've got this other, sorry, I should mention this too. I'll drop this link in the description. This is another way to do lazy loading. This one is fine as well, just doesn't use font awesome. So I'll put both of these in the description and we'll see how it goes. So let's go ahead and create a, let's get rid of all this stuff because I don't want any of this in here. Let's say this is app main page. And app main page, very exciting. Let's maybe wrap this in an H1 so we can differentiate. Thank you, VS Code. Didn't want that there. Save. Okay, big header. And for funsies, let's drop a, not a break, let's drop a HR. Okay, so we have a nice separator, a lazy separator. All right, so the other thing that I want to do here is create another component. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to be lazy, copy that, call this about.js, and don't need this logo or CSS. This is now about, sorry about the green. We want to return class name about. This is my about content, ... And we want to export about. All right, so very bland component. Let's let's maybe also grab a random meme. Stick with the classics. Is this an actual image? Sure is. Good, good. img src equals. Don't need that. Be good web developers. Add our attributes. Okay, so we have our main page. Now let's go ahead and import about from ./about.js and render out our about component. And there we go. How exciting. Let's fix this up a touch. BR. Okay. Sorry about all the cuts. A lovely cough going on today. All right, so main component, about component, nothing too exciting. All right, so if I want this to become loaded lazily, and we'll add in some kind of line breaks to show it popping in as well. Let's go ahead and import some things that we need. So I'm going to now, actually, let's do this. Let's split you over here, split you over here, touch smaller. Okay, just so that we have everything on one screen, so a little bit easier. And hopefully my head doesn't block everything. All right, so on our app page, let's go ahead and import React from React, because we're going to need that. We also want font awesome icons. Let's grab the solid as well. Okay, so we have those. And then we're going to change this about. I'm going to move it down a little bit. This is where the first bit is. We want to lazily load this in. Okay, so let's say, comment you out. Const about equals react.lazy.doot import about.js. Probably don't even need the JS. All right, so slightly different style here, right? This first time we're literally just loading in it as normal. Here we are returning a promise to load it in, okay? And we're going to go ahead and use this react.lazy method. You could add as many components as you wanted in here. Now we're going to go ahead and grab this. I'm just going to copy this since that's a lot to type out. Go ahead and comment out. Let's just get rid of that. react.suspense. Okay. So what we've got going on here is I've got my suspense module component, sorry, my fallback, so basically what it's going to show when the content is not available. It auto-completed, so I should get rid of this last one here. And then inside, we want our about component. Okay. And what is it complaining about? Did I make a typo? Okay, there has been a solid half hour of debugging in between, something I was not anticipating would be a problem. So just as a fun little aside, I had done a different demo, thought, you know what, this one's going to be pretty easy to do. Let's go ahead and try this other person's one because it looks the same. It's not going to be too bad. Perfect. Yeah, none of this worked. Well, it kind of worked. There's a thing with Font Awesome we have to do though. So I will say this, I am not going to do this bit of a demo here, but there is a React Icons Git repository if you want to use something other than Font Awesome. Somebody came up with a github.io site with all of these open source licensed icons. If you want to use them, I got Font Awesome working, and I will show you what I had to do. So a couple of things. I only installed the React Font Awesome library, so that was problem number one. After a little bit of digging, I realized that we also needed to install some extra modules, basically. So the free-solid, free-regular. I don't know that we needed free brands, but basically I added the React icons, React scripts in here. Sorry, that's the other one. I added in font awesome free, SVG-core, free-solid, and then the base one, which you saw me do before. So basically, I added in these three. I did an npm-i on those. Okay, so the other thing, which this solves the issue of missing entities. However, there is also a thing with Font Awesome in that it is either free or pro in terms of licensing. And if you don't do anything, you will keep getting a license error. So what I had to do, and I found this in a random Git issues page, you need to update your package.json script to say that your license is free. Now, I could not find this in any of the documentation for React, for Font Awesome. I followed their installation guide a couple of times. It never mentioned it anywhere. So basically, this needs to be part of the documentation. They say it is here, but it's a bit buried in where it needs to go. So this particular description was nowhere where I could find it. Found it here. Anyway, install the extra packages, update your package.json, and then you are good. Okay, so then we end up with our main page here, right? So back to our little guide. So I've got this, again, it's been a half hour. I'm gonna kind of rehash. We have our lazily loaded in component. We have our font awesome icons that we are loading in, and then we are returning this react.suspense. Now the fallback again is our little loading icon, and then anything inside of this component will be lazily loaded in. So you can kind of see the icon pop in right there. Let's go ahead and I'll make this a bit bigger now. Let's watch the network, and I'm going to put throttling on slow 3G. Let's get rid of the cache, make this smaller, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh it. So now we're going to see this loading in like it's on a 3G cell network. Loading in our bundle. We have it displayed on the page, so it's just going to pop right in. But here's our little spinning loading icon. Look at that. Now my about content is popping in. And it's taking a while to load in the thumb. And there are other components we could use if we wanted to load in images as well. But for now, that's kind of where we are at. So that's basically it for lazy loading and suspense demo. The weird thing was that Font Awesome was the biggest problem with this particular demo. You also kind of see, I guess I should mention too, so the font awesome CSS has thrown off our center aligned text, which is fine. That's something we could fix with a little bit of extra CSS, or maybe getting rid of the or overwriting the font awesome CSS that's coming in. But anyway, hope this was helpful for you. I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.